Welcome back to Men in the City. In today's video, we're going to talk about the cave. So in the last video, which you can see linked below, we talked about money and how money is often a misplaced goal for young men. Well, today, along those lines, we're going to talk about what you should do as a young man to put your life on the right track, to find your mission, to fulfill your libidinous objective that's deep inside you. Because really all men possess a mission. We just have to figure out what it is, and then we have to commit 100% to executing that mission. One of the key differences between men and women is hardship. I liken men and women to weeds and flowers. So weeds grow in all climates. They are resistant to harsh winters. They can grow in hot summers. Flowers, on the other hand, are extremely delicate. They require a greenhouse effect. That means they get plenty of sunshine, they get abundant water, and if you push that analogy out just a bit, it makes sense, right? Young women in particular need lots of encouragement. They need the support of friends and family. They need to be close to mom and dad. They need a community that reinforces a virtuous life. Men, in many respects, are quite the opposite. What we need is hardship. We need less sunlight. We need less abundance. We need difficulty. And in many respects, this explains why men born into privilege or given a silver spoon seldom accomplish very much. In fact, most of the time, the men that accomplish the most, they tend to be men that have come from rather difficult backgrounds, men that had a tumultuous upbringing, men that, for whatever reason, had issues with family, or they didn't have friends, or they experienced tragedy. And this is an archetype that's often expressed in the superhero movies that everybody knows and likes, whether it's Batman, and Spider-Man, to a lesser extent Superman, of course, but even he goes through a kind of struggle due largely from alienation, and has his own cave, his own fortress of solitude. So how do we internalize this idea? How do we make it a reality in our own lives? Well, the first thing you have to do as a young man is you have to stare at yourself in the mirror. You have to look directly in your eyes at all the imperfections and the ugliness, and then you have to take that and look at the rest of the world through the same lens. You have to see the things that really bother you, that disturb you, the things that you would improve upon if you could. And if you haven't done this, it's an important step, right? You need to look inside before you can look outside. So once you do that, once you begin to examine and evaluate the world around you and see, strip down what it is, right? Because much of it is ugly. Most of the most beautiful cities in the world were created from tremendous violence and conflict. It's only now that they are beautified in the aftermath or in the resolution of those conflicts. And that is an appropriate analogy for men, to recognize that you can't build anything that's going to sustain itself without going through tremendous hardship and suffering. And that speaks to perhaps a multi-generational problem for men today, millennials like myself, or even Zoomers. And that is that despite the fact that we've had some financial crises and we've had lots of upheaval, politically and otherwise, in reality, our lives have been relatively muted. We haven't had much in the way of tragedy, or at least if we have, it's been papered over with, you might say, feminine energy. So burying many of these discussions under political correctness, punishing people that speak the truth, or papering over budgetary problems or economic problems with easy money, with cheap money to keep the system going. Well, if we're going to become something of substance, if we're going to build our castles in the sky or make them a reality, or if we're going to build something from scratch, it's imperative that we see beyond that we see the nature of humanity for what it really is, and importantly, that begins with ourselves. Once you do that, once you see the things that really bother you, that move you, that then is the beginning of finding your cave, and that is to find the subterranean underbelly wherein you can do the work necessary to solve that problem. So if you're overweight, that begins your journey towards losing weight and becoming more physically fit. If you were born into luxury with a silver spoon and everything was given to you, your path, your journey is to earn it, is to build something new from nothing. If, on the other hand, you were born into squalor and your life has been fraught with tragedy and hardship, then what's imperative is for you to overcome that, is to build a stronger family where there was none before. And the way you do that is by going into your cave. It's by going into a space where you prioritize almost exclusively what it is that you want to improve, by ignoring or marginalizing everything else around you. And it's very difficult to do that in a city, because in a city you have a false abundance. Certainly there are dangers lurking around every corner, and we have to pay attention to those things. And in some sense, people in big cities tend to ignore those because the city itself has become a bubble. But for us as men, what is imperative is to zero out all of the detritus, all of the superfluous, irrelevant nonsense, and focus like a laser in our cave on perfecting our craft, to improving what we want to improve, or attacking the corruption or the evil or whatever it is in the world that really motivates you and moves you. That is what you must myopically focus on. Stay tuned for more, and we'll talk soon.